Hi everyone, and welcome to a brand new edition of Adda with Aavishkaar Capital. I'm Sudhanshu Dikshit, and I'm thrilled to have you all be a part of our latest initiative. We wanted to give the audience an up-close and personal ringside view of the companies Aavishkaar Capital has invested in, the dynamic founders behind them, and what have been some of their biggest successes and learnings in their journey of entrepreneurship. So joining us today on episode 1 in this freewheeling chat is Chqbook, India's first digital financial service provider for small business owners. We have the co-founders with us today, Vipul, Rajat, and Mohit. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this. And driving this conversation with them will be someone who's been working very closely with them since the beginning. Our partner at Aavishkaar Capital, Sushma Kaushik. Sushma, over to you.
Thanks, Sudhanshu. Vipul, Rajat, Mohit, thanks a ton for being part of the first Adda series of Aavishkaar Capital. And one of the reasons why we wanted to have a series like this is founders all the time, especially early stage founders all the time, come to us asking, what's the entrepreneurial journey like? Professionals who are sitting on the fence, who are wanting to take the plunge, come to us and ask, should we take the plunge, right? And we are not the right people to advise them. You guys are, right? And you have already walked the journey. So it'll be good to hear firsthand from you what it is to go through the rigmarole of being the entrepreneur. So what happens behind the scene? What kinds of ups and downs do you go through? How do you navigate challenges and so on? This is a direct dil se conversation. So keep it going. And share with us what your startup journey has been. I know it is not one of all the glitz and glamour that one gets to see on social media. There's a lot of heartburn, a lot of emotional stress that goes behind the scenes. And that's what people want to know about. So, to begin with, I'll start with where did the three of you meet, right? And what brought the three of you together? Vipul, I'll start with you first.
Sure. Yeah. So, it's interesting because I was a couple of years, and I think all three of us were a couple of years behind the same fence. We were corporate executives, looking at the entrepreneurial space. And I think that's where I met Rajat. Rajat and I have worked together at IndusInd Bank for over a decade, actually, together. And we've known each other for a decade, and that's how I known him, from many, many years. And when I started Chqbook, Rajat was in Bangalore working on his entrepreneurial venture. And I said, okay, let's, sort of combine forces. We know each other really well. There's a lot of comfort. We trust each other, and those are very important things. And, that's when actually Rajat took a big punt on this initially. He moved from Bangalore to Gurgaon to start working at Chqbook. And I think that was, must have been quite something, Rajat, for you at that time. I think that it was something else totally. Yeah. And Mohit actually is an interesting one because I knew Mohit. I got to know Mohit from an old college friend of mine. And initially, Mohit was like this, he was a chief marketing officer at Ringside Life Insurance. And he actually was an investor initially at Chqbook. He was an angel investor. And then, we started talking about, marketing, how do you get, sort of SEO, the early sort of website, what's the best design, stuff like that. And we started talking. And then literally, I think Mohit and I used to talk every Sunday for like a couple of hours, 2 hours for a whole year. So like, 52 Sundays, I think we didn't miss any one of them. And over that period, I kind of convinced him to just jump ship from and join over here.
Yeah,
considering
you were asking so much of his time, he might as well.
Yeah, we were like, okay, look, let me just do this full time.
I think pretty fascinating. It was like almost 2 decades working in large organizations, and life was actually becoming more of the same. And success in a typical corporate scenario, you would understand, was either you get more money, you get an enhanced role, you get great designations, great offices to sit, but it was essentially boring. And I have always, operated, like a salaried entrepreneur. So obviously cushion of a salary, but behaviors of trying to build something new for every organization. So ended up, managing large sales teams, launching new businesses, whether it was my telecom days, insurance days, or mutual fund days. And that's where I set thinking that how much more do I want to do in a similar kind of a setup, moving from one company to the other. And that got me started. I think it's time to do something or start thinking towards bringing in meaningful contribution to the society, create something where you can actually create an impact and not only earn money for yourself. And that's where I was thinking, and that's where Vipul's uh, classmate and a friend of mine introduced me to Vipul, and he just gave me a one-line introduction. Meet Vipul. He's trying to build something great. He already has Rajat on his side. At least start by becoming a gardener, right? You may not want to jump ship fully, but just become a gardener. Maybe you can look at a small investment, because that was the time these guys were raising angel round, and that's where I got started. Met Vipul, met Rajat, and made that small investment, a small check in Chqbook, so to say. And I think what is really fascinating is those 52 Sundays, maybe more. A side thing, maybe you want to record this or not, but my wife actually got very, very uh, sensitive about it, that who is this person you speak to for 2 hours every Sunday? Is there something more to it? And then I started sharing with her as well. I in fact shared this with the entire organization, Sushma and Sudhanshu, when we raised the first round through you, and we called our key employees, and we had a nice evening with them, and I shared this entire coming into Chqbook story with everyone. And I think those 52 Sundays was every Sunday we used to discuss that how do you build a unique business model, how do you create an impact, and the TG that was already defined, where we wanted to make a difference, rang a bell a lot. So I think I started by working like an extended arm to these guys. I used to visit Delhi for my work. I used to go sit with them in the old office, spend time, and I was like a outsourced kind of a unit for them. And I think both of them, Vipul and Rajat, they shared values that I've always believed in, and that made it easy for me to jump ship. uh, and I think no regrets. Last 3 years, it's been a fabulous journey, a lot of learning, great camaraderie. And we've been able to build a lot, right? And we will continue to build. So that's my side of story. Rajat, over to you.
Yeah, so what like Vipul said, he's like where we met, right? We met in Innocent Bank, and what used to happen there in when we were working together also, that we used to kind of talk a lot together. When we used to go on, we used to win some contest, go together, and kind of have a good, go to Thailand and visits, go to the hills there and all that, do a lot of expeditions there, and and that is where actually when I started on my own, and we used to anyways used to talk a lot among each other. And that is where when Vipul was kind of had this idea and had started developing it, that is where we were in touch. We should talk a lot on it, and that is where I felt that his idea has a lot of potential and something which we can really do on scale. And that is what kind of kind of pushed me, right, to take a drastic step into kind of moving away from my entrepreneur, being a co-founder with Vipul, and then moving base, right? Because I've spent most of my career, my working life in Bangalore or Bombay, and that is where I moved to Gurgaon. So that was mostly the scale. I mean, what common interests, common passions, about banking, what we can do together. The segments that we saw that are kind of not being really addressed by banks, and we saw really good common ground again on that too. And that was kind of, I think, brought us together on a both personal and a professional level. And obviously with Mohit, right? Mohit, when obviously I came to know him through Vipul, and then when Mohit used to travel to Delhi a lot to give us advice on marketing or whatever, and I used to meet up with him, And that is where kind of, we built up rapport with Mohit there, and a lot of ideas. Mohit was our marketing guy, helping us a lot in those pieces, especially with Harsha Bhogle coming in and all those pieces coming in. Mohit played a very crucial part there.
Now, so tell me one thing, all of you come from professional backgrounds, right? And in all your years as professionals, you must have seen challenges there in that context as well. But I'm sure it hadn't prepared you for what entrepreneurship would throw your way, right? I mean, entrepreneurship can throw multiple curveballs. So then how have you guys navigated the whole entrepreneurial journey? I know it's still very early days, but I also know that you've been through your set of challenges. Would love to hear, some of the challenges you've gone through from when you started and how you navigated it in your own way.
So let me go first. So I think, look, when we started together, right? It was not the time. It was like 2017, 2018. You still didn't have a lot of these accelerators and all that stuff. And plus, even now you do have accelerators, but for people who are working in let's say the BFSI industry or in telecom or whatever, they don't know a lot, and neither did we. We were first-time entrepreneurs. We didn't know investors. We didn't know angel investors, right? So that was, I think, the first navigational challenge as to, okay, what is it that you really have to talk about? And I think one of the things I struggle a lot with even today is, what is there's a, because I think, and we've talked about it, right? We are hardcore operators in a lot of ways, right? We are always thinking numbers, use case, customer experience, all of that stuff. And then, coming into this world where it's a far more personal journey, because, the reality of corporate life is that it is not, while the companies are really large and all that stuff, but for you, it's a business and you're running a team, right? So there's an objective. It is not about the entrepreneur or the person running the team that matters too much. It is about the outcome that the team gives. So changing that mindset and saying, okay, you're out here to really create something from scratch. And that means you have to talk about your personal motivations of why you want to do it and make that really resonate with everybody around you, is actually quite a big challenge for people who come from corporate life, because and it's something that I have struggled a lot. And then because so one of the interesting things is you don't want to sound like you're spinning something, right? But at the same time, you want to be able to convey all the emotions you felt when you started as an entrepreneur and why you started as an entrepreneur. And it's not an easy task to do, because a lot of those are very private emotions, and bringing them out is not easy.
Vipul, I must say you're not the only one.
I'm sure,
we have met so many of our own founders who have gone
Right.
through this journey. It is a journey of self-discovery for many, right? And as you rightly said, the objectives suddenly change from measurable outcomes to even softer outcomes like building an institution, inculcating the right culture. All those softer aspects need to be bought in, which is, you need to make that mental switch. And for many, it is challenging. It takes time, but you're getting there. It's fine. It's the journey.
Yeah.
Last 2 years specifically, obviously the world has felt the blow. So we are not insulated in any way. And the segment that we cater to, of course, makes it even more interesting for us to operate. So I just want to go back, right? So there was a point in time when I said, I want to start my entrepreneurial journey, enough of this corporate life. Can I build something, create impact? The choice I had was go solo, right? Or be a lone ranger. The other was, join hands with like-minded people. So I think the learning and the challenges that we've had, we've been able to navigate better because 3 of us were there together, right? And I think collectively, we've been able to communicate and over-communicate with our people and the teams. Either when we were hiring them, or we already had them on board. I think that belief and that, the confidence that we were able to inculcate around that, what we are on to, made it simpler, right? Not calling out specific challenges, or this was a challenge and this is how we overcame. But yeah, last 2 years were full of challenges. But I think the common platform on which we interact with each other and we believe in each other, I think that helped actually me a lot. Had I been a lone ranger and had I taken the same call of going solo around the same time I jumped into Chqbook, I don't think I would have been able to do it the way, with the help of Vipul and Rajat, I was able to do.
So Mohit, what you're saying is it's important and good to have co-founders, especially like-minded co-founders to work in this journey, because otherwise it can be quite lonely. So I have a question. If you were to do things a little differently now, when you look back, what would you have done?
For example, there are, you're in the market and you're looking at other fintechs, you're looking at other neobanks, and you're like wondering, they have this, sort of non-revenue lines or customer acquisition drivers. UPI was booming, right? Like Google Pay, PhonePe, they're building tons of transactions. They're having thousands of crores of losses. And you're scratching your head, and we used to scratch our head, and we're like, what are we doing wrong here? Like, which part of the puzzle are we missing? How are these guys, going down this path and they're getting so much love and all that stuff? And here we're actually trying to solve the customer's problems. And we are trying to actually get the customer to, for example, get loans and insurance and all that stuff.
There is love from Aavishkaar. We do know,
of course.
We do genuinely believe you're solving for a very, very hard problem. Solving for the small business community has always been challenging, right? And as Mohit mentioned, COVID has been especially tough on many of those guys. And you were solving for that problem as well. So you just stick at it. I'm sure you will achieve something big.
One thing I just want to add here, we've been spending a lot of time meeting these small businesses, right? You would have seen some videos that we've come out with. And these videos have not just come out because we said, oh, we are coming to your shop and we want to do one show with you, right? It's not. There is a lot of interaction and engagement. I have personally, gone and sat behind the counter and I've spent a day just observing the guy. And some of these people have been really kind. So what gives us joy, because we bring those learnings back and we share it with others. What gives us joy is that, yes, he's the guy who needs us the most. The salaried guy and the top 1%, they don't need us. They have a problem of plenty. They're spoiled by choice. And if I can solve for this user, this community, I think that would be the biggest contribution that we will make to the GDP of the country, right? I think those behind the scenes and behind the counter lives that we've tried to live has been pretty satisfying. So then we don't think too much about challenges, problems, so on and so forth.
A famous quote by Mike Tyson, which says, everybody has a plan till they get punched.
And
I guess that's a similar thing that happened to you guys, right? You raised money and the next month was when COVID, right?
Right.
So I'm sure you were all, raring to go. You put in all your plans and suddenly you're like, bam, right? I mean, all your plans just went out of the window. But kudos to you. You did survive. You did manage to maneuver that phase in your entrepreneurial journey. So why don't you tell us something about that? And looking back, where do you see yourself? Do you feel you're worse off or better off or enlightened? What is the emotion you feel now that you're out of that phase?
So Sushma, I think, there's this phrase, COVID children, right? Like, so it kind of also is true for companies, like COVID, born in COVID, right? So we've actually, I think we are, obviously we're eternal optimists, right? All of us, to that extent. You have to be, otherwise you're going to get bogged down by, and we've had COVID. And I think what is amazing is that I think when Aavishkaar invested, you guys invested in us. And literally 10, 20, 15 days later, the first lockdown happened. I still remember Shushma, you called me and you said, "Hey, look, Vipul, I think about 10 days before the lockdown, and you said, look, Vipul, we don't know how bad this is going to be. We don't know what's going to happen, but I have just one request: don't fire anybody."
Right.
I don't know if you remember this.
Yes. Yes.
But and then we spoke, Mohit and Rajat, and I was really touched. I said, look, this is
Yeah.
an investor who's come in and who's literally saying this. And you said that there is something called karma, and it does play a role, and we believe that as well. And we made sure that the team had the right kind of space where they could work from home. Rajat activated our contact center to be able to work remotely from home, like literally overnight. We had these teams who were working on some metro cash and carry stores, and within obviously the lockdown hit. And I still remember, one month, I think, after the lockdown, while it was still lockdown, those guys, the metro team called us and said, "Hey, can you send people in, because we are operational," because they were essential services. And Rajat spoke to the team, and they said, "Oh yes, we can." And the amazing thing after that is that I, as soon as the lockdown ended, I was back in office as well. So were all of us. And we said, and I think I've had this thing that, okay, if I'm asking somebody from my team to go to office, better make sure I go to office.
Right.
And I think those were some of the things. You have to show up, and it has to start from the top. So I think that was a crazy period. And I think we were very fortunate to work with partners and with investors who always sort of supported us, and at the same time given us opportunities as well in such times. And those were the green shoots, right? So you hear something like that happening, and then you are like, okay, looks like this is something which is valued, and that's why these people want us to come back and start working with them again right now. And I think that gave us all a lot of confidence, and keeps you going. And I think the other thing is also that then we had the second wave, and then our sort of insurance license was taking a lot of time, right? Our broking license. And we were like, okay, this is crazy. And we finally got it, right? And I think that's the other thing. You have to sort of persevere, and just crunch through the whole thing. And there will be a lot of self-doubt daily. Like, okay, maybe we could have gotten a corporate agency license. Maybe you could have bought a license. In hindsight, all those hundreds, why did we go and take a license? So, and then it finally pays off in the end. And I think those are some of the interesting things that we used to keep talking about, which I think really stood out for me. I think the call that you made, actually, Shushma, was very interesting. I still remember it. All of us do, about when COVID hit. And I think the other one was when Metro asked us to come back into the stores really quickly. That was a big morale booster. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think compliments to Aavishkaar team, because it actually gave us a lot of faith that yes, you look at investors, but you also look at investors who come with values, and it actually touched us a lot, because we didn't have to do the hard work of asking people, and it's not something which we believed. I have never believed in firing people, right, for some rhyme or reason. So I think that was I think pretty momentary and pretty fascinating and touching for us. Another piece which I'll just go into a little specific, right, because we had raised this money and we wanted to build a mega app for financial services and offer this piece. There were two situations we had. Oh, let's wait and watch. Now COVID has hit us. What do we do with that? But I think we utilized that period of 2 months, the first formal lockdown, where a lot of document writing, a lot of design, a lot of creation happened, and we were then on track in terms of launching. So nothing became a reason for us to launch our neo banking app, right, that we wanted to launch, and we were ready by August. That was our original plan. So those 2 months where all of us used to be on these never-ending Zoom calls, right, and we were just writing and we didn't have big teams. We were pretty small as a team, so all of us were doing the heavy lifting of writing these product notes and working with the engineering team and the designers and getting those testing done. So I think that was a very different kind of experience that all of us had. And it didn't bother us even once that we need to delay the product. So we were on time. I think this entire thinking of being an entrepreneur is also being always, on and being, and don't stop, just continue with your larger objective. Everything will fall in place.
Yeah. I would like to reiterate, since I was managing people and I had kind of hired those people myself to build a team. And then Sushma, you gave us that hope, and Aavishkaar gave us that hope by saying us those words, right? As to retain the people. That was the hope, actually, I think was a big hope that we got. And that helped us retain our people, that helped us to get back on our feet very quickly after the period was over, because all these employees were very very appreciative of the fact that they were not fired, they were retained, and they were still given salaries.
Thanks for sharing that, and I'm so glad we could be of help in whatever little way we could, because one of the things we've seen is in early stage companies, the culture of a company is formed in the formative years of the company, right? And that stays with you. And so we constantly hear and see a lot of toxic news out there, which talks of toxic cultures, hire and fire culture. That's not sustainable, right? And like as Mohit said, if you have all come together to create a big, impactful business, that can't be the approach you take with your own people. So I'm so glad that it has helped out. But what I would like to understand is, so what is the culture of Chqbook like? And I'm a proud owner of your swag kit. So if you could just share how you came about this, how does it work with the psyche of your team now? Is that a draw? How do you attract talent? That would be great to know.
Yeah, so I think the culture, so, we have an open office, right? So everybody sits out in the open, including me, Mohit, Rajat. None of us have cabins, and we sit, so I actually sit next to the credit team, which sits on the other side of my desk, right? And Mohit, for example, sits, actually in one of the smallest desks in the Bangalore office, right over there. So that really helps, because then everybody walks up, and I think that's important. So if I'm walking out, I'll, Vipul, what about this? What about that? I think that happens with all three of us all the time. So there's that informal nature of the work relationship, which is, I think, very important. Nobody is going to say, talk to me later, or, I'm busy right now. None of that stuff flies with us or with anybody else for that matter, right? So I think that helps a lot in allowing people to take those freedoms of being able to express anything. I think the second thing is we've kind of kept the teams together. So, and from early on, we've made sure, or we've tried to make sure that people come back to office and so on and so forth. And of course, after the vaccinations and started, and the second vaccination, everybody has come back to office. And that has helped because when you're a small company, you want to have a lot of agenda less or non-agenda based conversations. You want to be able to use the whiteboard together. And I think those things really matter. We've also got all the teams sitting together. So we have tech, credit, sales, finance, HR, they're all sitting sort of in the same space. They don't have separate areas and so on and so forth. So people will generally sit just around each other. So you will also have, and I keep telling people, I'm like, hey, this is not a library. Make all the noise you want, right? And then, only for like some people, like if it's too loud, like sales can get really loud. so that is when we're like, okay, sales teams, guys, you go, sit in that side. That is all your side. You can make as much noise as they do. But then all the rest of the teams, basically sit together. And I think that helps. I think the swag kit
I'm gathering you're not a big fan of work from home.
Oh no, I'm not.
None of us are. None of us are actually, and our
Yeah,
teams
yeah,
are
yeah.
neither. Our teams are neither. So I
Right.
was pushed by my teams that when are we opening? And it's lockdown, right? So government says don't step
Because
out,
what
and
what
my
I
team is saying
hear
when are you
from
opening?
what I hear from the younger lot is that they want flexibility, they want to work from
No.
home, they want to work from the hills. How do you
Sushma,
handle that?
Sushma, you must meet some of our younger ones. You'll be, they will just change your view. Those guys literally pushed me to open the office when the government said it's lockdown, right? So they were in Bangalore. We had this QR code system, right? So you could just go to the government app and just say that you are part of the essential services. And some of the guys, it's a very fascinating thing. Some of my colleagues, then we were a very small team during the first lockdown. And these guys figured out that we are going to go the insurance route, right? And we were selling some group insurance products. So they actually declared themselves as essential services providers because insurance companies were allowed to operate from office. And that became a reason for them to come to office. So these guys are always wanting to come work together with other colleagues, work from office. I think that's very, very fascinating.
And to
No,
this,
and I think COVID has also shown that, right? Which is that there are two types of people: people who want to work from home and people who want to work from office. That is, it's fairly binary. Mostly work from home or mostly work from office, and I think that is where it is. Thankfully, most of the teams here have been sort of working from office, and they don't have a problem at all, with it.
Culture front, like you said, swag. I would say Chqbook swag is the culture, right? So it's not just a fascinating LED type of branding that we've done, but it is essentially the culture. And what we inculcate and what we tell our people is don't come into office because you're coming to do a job. This is not a place where you'll do a job. Think like an entrepreneur, own the project. Don't worry about problems, get into problem solving, come up with solutions. I think these are few characteristics, values that we are working very, very hard in terms of inculcating in our people. And I think all of this then starts reflecting into how they operate in style, and all of them then combines and shows as Chqbook swag, right?
Just doing that gets everybody, okay, this is a place where we can have quick solutions. What people don't like, right, is they don't like things getting stuck in limbo, right? People not willing to work together to arrive at a solution. So if you tell somebody, right, okay, you have to come up with a solution, that usually doesn't work. You say, okay, let's together figure out a solution, and that changes things. So I think that's some of the things that we've tried to do, and it's not something different. I think it's just how we've always operated, and it's just playing out with the rest of the people. We hope plays out well with everybody, and we try as much as we can.
So far it's worked.
Right. And two things actually I really like are, one is the open culture, right? That anybody can walk up to anybody and talk, right? And discuss. The other thing is the decision making is very collaborative in nature. All the decision, we are lucky also again to have very good set of people for each businesses that we have a good set of people, good set of decision makers and leaders, and they come from good experience, so they're able to kind of collaborate together and take decisions, and we try to be more of enablers rather than the decision takers in that process.
You must be familiar with the theory of manifestation, right? Or the laws of attraction, as they call it, which essentially means that once you desire something so bad, the universe conspires to make it happen. So what do you desire for Chqbook? Or what do you want Chqbook to stand for? Like, I can hear it that you're saying that this is a legacy you're building out, but what is it that you want it to stand for?
I think it comes out in our, the Chqbook Vyapar stories we've done. And when the three of us were talking about it, right? And we said, okay, look, this customer, right? He is, the small business owner, the idli shop owner, or the metals trader, or the chemist shop, or the restaurant running in Mysore, right? Or anywhere else. He's the hero of his family. He's the hero of his community, right? And literally they were COVID heroes. Most of them are, a lot of our customers were, the entire retail segment was a COVID hero during COVID. But more than that, for their families, they are the heroes. They're literally changing and bringing generational change for their kids, giving them opportunities. We have had customers whom we've spoken to, is one of in our videos actually, and he wants to have, he's educating their kids, and one of their sons is going to become a doctor, the other one is an artist, and and he has his daughter's paintings put up in his shop, the way, there's this painting behind me, and I think it's just wonderful to be able to see that. So when I talk to the teams as well, I'm like, look, don't think in terms of 60 million customers or 60 million, or going up to 125 million over the next couple of years. Think of a situation where the guy near your house or somewhere else, is really benefiting from the service we're providing, and that's going to be enough. You impact 5 people, them, and that's going to bring you more joy.
Super, Vipul. That was touching, right? I mean, it does strike a chord with many when you say it that way. So the 0 to 1 build-up stage in any startup is the most intense start of the journey, right? And I know all of you have families. How do you manage a balanced life? Any hobbies, any hacks that have helped you take your mind off the stress? Just quickly, like how is it that you manage all of this so well, and yet when I speak to you, there's always a smile on your face?
Rajat has his food. That I know for sure.
What he gets from home and what he likes to eat.
Yeah.
That's a secret.
I think sometime back, Rajat said that food is not something which binds us, but food is something which is the biggest stress buster for me. Right. So after a heavy, hard day, I think a great meal actually helps me relax better. So I think that is there. I like to actually start my day early, and I want to, just go out and feel the air early in the morning, right?
Wind
At
on your face.
6:30.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Bangalore is blessed with good air, right?
Don't rub that in, Mohit.
So I actually like to walk in that 50 AQI air, right? So
right.
So I think that's a good start to the day. Start your day with a book. Spend an hour just reading after a nice walk. I think this just actually gets me ready for the day. And then there is never a time where you feel stressed or you say that, oh, well, what am I going to do today? So I think these are some basic rituals which I have stuck to for many years, and that continue to help me this piece. And I think there is nothing stressful because the purpose is so large that there is nothing which stresses us out. The moment we get stressed, we just think of the purpose. Honestly, not to and you just shared a very interesting Paulo Coelho thing. So when the world is conspiring to help us making it happen, why should we be stressed, right? So I think that's where it keeps us going. But yeah, food is very important, like Vipul and Rajat said.
Yeah, for me, actually, balancing work life, right? So what I do basically is that spend first 2 hours in the morning with my family and spend the last 2 hours of the day with the family. So that's it, kind of balancing it out. First 2 hours of the day, last 2 hours of the day with family. That's one. Second, obviously, very understanding wife, very understanding kids. Kids actually love that I'm an entrepreneur. And they love that I'm a CEO of something, and so they take pride in that. They're very happy when I'm talking about Vipul uncle, Mohit uncle. So they're like constantly checking me about them, right? And both of them done some things to kind of endear themselves to my kids, right? And so that's how it is.
Oh yeah. So very quickly, I think one super important thing: get enough sleep, right? So I always make it a point to get enough sleep. I will sleep, 7-8 hours for sure, right? So that is super important. And honestly, if you do that, most of the time you're pretty okay when you wake up, right? The second thing I do is during the lockdown, my parents were also here, and we started getting into the habit of playing Monopoly, which is this card game, not the board game. I played board game when I was a kid. Started playing Monopoly Deal, yeah, exactly, right. And now we played with 2 card decks and all kinds of variations and all that stuff. And we play 2-3 games pretty much every night now. And So you're not on the phone, you're not on an electronic device, you're just playing Monopoly, you're engaging with everybody. And I think that's another fairly, very important thing actually that, that has helped a lot. I think, yeah, those two things, super important.
Super. No, now I know when not to call you.
Monopolistic timing.
Monopolistic timing.
Yeah. No, it was wonderful chatting with the three of you today. I got to know a lot of things which I didn't otherwise know. So this was great. And thanks, Sudhanshu, for giving us this opportunity. And I wish you all the very best for the future of Chqbook.
Yeah, thank you all so much for what's been an incredibly insightful and candid conversation. And it's safe to say that Vipul, Rajat, and Mohit, you've set a pretty high benchmark for the rest of our investee companies to follow. Yeah, Sushma, thank you so much for putting this together and really helping us get the most out of this engaging discussion, for keeping it light yet real. And on that note, it's time to say goodbye. But before we close, remember this is just episode 1 of Adda with Aavishkaar Capital. For our next episode, we'll be featuring yet another interesting entrepreneurial journey with the founder of a logistics tech startup, Chqbook. But to stay updated with all our latest content, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. Cheers, everyone. Bye for now.